Hey y'all, so today I've got 3 simple weeknight dinner recipes that your family is going to love. This first one is called Chicken Pot Pie Orzo. This is a one-pot meal. It was so simple and it was delicious. I love one-pot meals. I have several of those on my channel because they are so simple to throw together and easy, and it cuts down on the dishes and they are still delicious. For this recipe, I've got 3 whole carrots and I have peeled those, and then I'm cutting them down small enough to fit into my vegetable chopper. I'm going to let that dice these up for me so I don't have to do that. It makes it so much simpler. I've also got 2 sticks of celery that I'm chopping up here, and I'm just going to chop those up super fine and throw those in there as well, but if you want to do a little more, you can. If I get those the way I want them, I'm going to go ahead and take those and just set them over to the side, and then I'm going to start working on my broccoli. I've got 1 head of broccoli, and I'm just going to chop that up into bite-sized pieces as well. I love broccoli. I try to add it in so much stuff because it's one of our very favorite vegetables. So once I get done chopping up my broccoli and get those ready, I'm going to work on my carrots, and I'm just going to use my smallest dicing blade I have for my vegetable chopper and just chop those up. And then once I get those all chopped up, I'm going to set those to the side. And next I will be working on chopping up my onion. I have 1 small onion here, and I'm going to use my same dicing blade that I did my carrots with, and I'm going to chop that up into small pieces. Once I finish chopping that up as well, this is all going to be ready to start cooking. So I'm going to put these all in a pan, and I'm just going to start cooking these with a little bit of butter just to soften them, but I'm not going to fully cook them. So I'm just going to work on softening those just for a couple minutes, and then once I get those a little bit soft, I'm going to remove them from the pan and I'm going to start cooking my chicken. For your chicken, you can use whatever seasonings that you would like to use. I used several different kinds. I used this roast chicken by Kinder. I'm just going to evenly sprinkle that on there. I didn't measure it. I'm also going to use parsley flakes, and I'm just going to coat that chicken really well with that, as well as onion powder. I also added a little bit of garlic powder to this. I didn't do a whole lot, just enough for flavor. Feel free to use minced garlic if you want to do that. But I'm going to stir my chicken up really well and get that coated. And once I did that, I decided that I felt like it needed more seasoning. So I went ahead and went back over everything with the same seasonings for a second time. And then once I got that done and got it the way I wanted it to look, I covered this up and I just let my chicken fully cook. And then once it was fully cooked, I gave it a taste test, and I thought it tasted pretty good. So I removed my chicken from my pan, and I'm going to start adding my chicken broth. I'm using the chicken bouillon cubes, so I'm using 4 of those per 4 cups of water, and I'm going to let those melt down, and I'm also going to add in 2 cups of milk. And once I get that added in, just make sure you do not let it burn, but I'm going to let that come up to temperature and get warm. And then I'm going to add 1 16-ounce box of Orzo pasta. And I'm just going to give that a quick little stir. And I'm going to put the lid on this and just let it cook. And I'm just going to make sure, though, it's not too high, because with this milk in here, it's going to get kind of foamy and it could boil over really easy. So just occasionally stir it and watch it. Make sure it doesn't boil over. The Orzo pasta doesn't take too long to fully cook. It takes maybe about 12 minutes. Once my orzo is about halfway finished, I'm going to add back in my chicken and my vegetables. That way my vegetables can finish cooking and get soft the way that I want them, but I didn't want them to be mushy, so that's why I waited a little bit. Once I got that stirred in, I went ahead and started adding a little bit of seasonings to this again, because that orzo still needs some seasonings as well. So I just went over it with really what I seasoned my chicken with: parsley flakes, thyme leaves, salt, Kinder's roast chicken seasoning, onion powder, garlic powder. Everything that I use, I always type it down below in the description. So I will type all these seasonings out that I'm using. I just didn't measure these out this time. I just kind of went by taste. Once I get it all stirred up, I'm just going to make sure that everything's patted down under the liquid line. And then I'm going to cover this with the lid and just let it finish cooking. I stirred it a couple times. You just want to make sure nothing's burning or scorching on the bottom. Once this is finished cooking, it will still have a little bit of liquid in it, but it's not watery. It's just creamy, and it will keep it from drying out, especially if you have leftovers with this. But once the orzo is fully cooked, I'm going to add some mozzarella cheese and Parmesan cheese to this. Feel free to add whatever cheese you want to this. I don't think you could go wrong with any cheese, really. Just sprinkle how much you want on this. I just eyeballed it, and then once I got it the way I wanted it, I stirred it up, I let it melt, and then this recipe was ready to serve. This was so good. It was the perfect cozy comfort meal. My family absolutely loved it. I loved how this didn't take a whole lot of pans to make, and it cut down on the dishes. I didn't have a huge mess to clean up. Enjoy! Next, I am going to be making butter chicken linguine. This recipe was so good, but it does use a whole lot of butter, so I wouldn't make this very often, but it was delicious. I've got one package of chicken thighs here, and I am going to season this up to my family's taste. So I'm going to be doing salt, pepper, smoked paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, Kinder's caramelized onion butter, just a little bit of that. It does kind of have an artificial flavor, so I didn't use a lot. Also, Kinder roast chicken seasoning. I'm going to go over it with that a little bit, and then once I get that done, I'm just going to stir this up really well. And it didn't really coat to my chicken the way I wanted it to, so I am going to add some more seasonings here in a minute, but I'm first going to start my pasta. I wanted leftovers with this, so I am using linguine, a 16-ounce box, and I'm just going to start cooking that while I start frying up my chicken. And I'm just going to cook this in some butter. You could use olive oil, whatever you want. I didn't use a whole lot of butter since this already requires a lot of butter. But once I got those in the pan, I went ahead and went over them with my seasonings again. I think the smoked paprika really made this dish. That really brought out a lot of good flavor in this and just gave it kind of a smoky flavor. It was so good. If you don't have smoked though, you can use regular. But once you get those seasoned up the way you like it, and then you've cooked those for a little bit, go ahead and flip them over. And once you get them all flipped, and then you just let them fully cook until they are all the way done. Once that's done, I'm going to take these out of the pan and set them to the side while I start on my butter sauce. So I've got 2 sticks of butter here. My butter is salted, and I'm going to melt that down. I'm going to add 3 big tablespoons of parsley flakes to this. If you feel like that's too much or not enough, of course you can adjust that to how you want. But once I do that, I'm going to also add in a half a cup of heavy cream to this. And I'm also going to add in a half a cup of chicken broth to this. For my chicken broth, I am using 1 chicken bouillon cube to half a cup of water just to make the chicken stock a little bit stronger. You can get low sodium and do that, and then I'm just going to let that melt down until that cube is dissolved in there. And I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Just try not to get any lemon seeds in there because you don't want to bite into that, and make it crunchy or something. It would be really bitter. And I'm going to give that a quick little stir. I'm going to add some mozzarella cheese. I would say about half a cup, and this is shredded mozzarella cheese. You could also do Parmesan as well. I was actually going to do Parmesan, but I forgot to get some at the store while I was in the middle of making this. That's when I realized. So I went ahead and used the mozzarella, and I think it actually turned out really well. But I've got my linguine pasta that I have strained, and I'm going to add that to this. And I did keep about 1/4 of a cup of that pasta water, and I'll put that to the side. And we're going to use that in a minute. But we're just going to break up these noodles. They have gotten kind of stuck together and dried as they were setting in the strainer. I left them over to the side a little bit too long while I was working with the sauce, but it was fine. I didn't mess them up or anything. Once I got those in there and stirred around really well, I went ahead and added my chicken into this, and I did just kind of shred my chicken up. You can chop it if you want. However you want your chicken to be is not going to matter, but I just went the quick route and shredded it. But it ended up being just a little bit thick, so I did add a little bit of heavy cream and pasta water to this just to kind of loosen everything up and keep it from drying out, because we want this to be creamy, of course. But that's it, and this is ready to serve. Enjoy! And last but not least, we've got smoked sausage and potatoes. I have 2 packages here of skinless smoked sausage. I've got 3 medium peeled potatoes and 1 small peeled potato. I also have 1 small onion. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my vegetable chopper, and I'm going to dice these potatoes up. Size Dyson blade makes the perfect size potatoes to fry these little cubes up. And then once we get that done, I'm just going to set those over to the side. And I'm also going to chop up my onion with my Dyson blade as well, so they'll be around the same size as the potatoes were. Once I get my onion finished, I'm going to move that over to the side, and I'm going to start chopping up my smoked sausages. And I'm just going to do those into like little coins and just kind of get them roughly the same size. Once I get those finished, I am going to start melting down in my pan some butter. And then I'm going to start frying up my potatoes first, and I'm going to throw my onions in there with those as well, just because that's going to take longer to get those cooked and fried, whereas the smoked sausage is already cooked. I am going to add our favorite seasonings to this, so I'm going to do some salt, some black pepper, some onion powder, and then I'm also going to do some smoked paprika. Smoked paprika is amazing on fried potatoes, and I'm just going to coat that really well. And then as I flip these and fry them up, I'm going to add more seasoning to this because, you want your potatoes to have some flavor. But we're just going to let them set, and we're just going to let them cook. I did put the lid on it for a little bit. That way they're still frying up on the bottom, but the middles of them are still cooking up as well, so it won't take as long. But I'm just going to stir these maybe every 3 to 4 minutes and just add some more salt and some more paprika, things like that. And then give them another flip and pat them back down. That way they'll actually be touching the skillet where they will become crispy on the bottom. But once you get them looking about what you want, we're going to go ahead and add in our smoked sausages to this. Once your potatoes are finished, you could take them out of the pan and char your smoked sausages up separately, but I just went ahead and threw them in there together and just helped everything kind of blend the flavors. But I'm just going to stir these around. I mean, these are fully cooked, but I do want to get a char on them and heat them up. So I'm just going to let them cook like I did the potatoes and just stir them around every few minutes. And just really let those flavors blend together. Once you get these charred the way you want them to look, these are done and this dish is finished. It's ready to serve. You can go ahead and taste it. Just make sure you got enough salt and things. Smoked sausage has a lot of flavor itself, so once you add that into this dish, it does add quite a bit of flavor. But once that's done, this is ready to serve. I did serve mine with some frozen veggies that I cooked up and seasoned, and it turned out really well. I hope you've enjoyed these videos and make sure to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. Bye.